Hello, everyone. My name is Shane A. Bassett, the movie analyst, and today I'm speaking to my fellow Australian director, Sam Odlum. Pleased to meet you, mate.
Likewise, I'm actually a New Zealander, but I do reside in Melbourne, so I forgive the
Look,
yeah.
I actually should have known that. I should have done my research.
No,
I
no, all
assumed
good.
you're Australian. There you go. But you know what? We claim Kiwis, right? Sam Neill,
Always,
Russell
yeah,
Crowe.
yeah, yeah.
But it was a Victorian-made film. That's
It
correct.
was, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm a Melbourne guy these days, so no, like, no worries.
And time travel is it's a huge genre. It's like shark movies, action
Mm.
movies. There's so many different variations of time travel films. How did this start? Did it just date from a short film or an idea? And how did you get from the beginning to now being on the big screen?
Yeah, so it was a short film. I made the short film. We shot that in 2017, and it wasn't something I'd planned to make a feature of, but it was received really well, and just started to think about it a little bit and unpack it. And I was like, look, this might make a great proof of concept to help get a feature off the ground, and
Yeah.
and it did. Like I think without the short, we probably wouldn't have got a lot of the pieces in place, like the financing and interest from other parties. So the short helped. Where the short came from was, like I'm a big fan of, obviously a big movie fan and story fan in general, love sci-fi, kind of love a lot of different genres. And this kind of felt like the perfect opportunity to mash a lot of those genres together. Probably the first inspiration was A Scanner Darkly, the book by Philip K. Dick. And
Yeah.
I just was blown away with how he kind of managed those characters. He made them sort of so melancholic and hilarious, and sort of was able to do all that in a sci-fi world. And I think, like I was like, oh, look, I'd love to do something like that. And then the time travel element just gave me that opportunity to sort of speak about these characters and who they are in relation to each other, and who they are in terms of, like, I guess, their own behavior, and sort of unpacking that and how they kind of mess with their own futures and pasts.
Well, you mentioned A Scanner Darkly. Was there any consideration to maybe animate this movie or maybe
No, no, I
animate
think
certain scenes?
no, there was. It's an interesting question. There was actually no sort of discussion of that. I think that we wanted to shoot this film, even though, like there's a little bit of, the cinematography, there's a little bit of, sort of clockwise action and so forth with the camera.
Yeah.
I think we're quite conservative with the camera. So, like, I was like, look, the concept's so out there. Let's be really conservative and respectful with the camera, and sort of treat it like it's kind of like a drama. So, like, once we got onto set, after the script was written, and once we got through rehearsals and onto set, everyone was treating it like a drama. That was my note to all heads of departments. So, like, let's kind of like not really think about. So we kind of forgot that it's comedy. So it's kind of cool that we're now sort of seeing it play for audiences, and people are laughing, and it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like I guess it's funny. It's great.
Well, it's had an Australian premiere. It's also about to be released in the UK. How have the reactions been from your point of view so far? Are you happy? Has there been any sitting on the
Yeah,
fence?
look, it's been awesome. Like, I think the film's been received really well. It's been received as intended. Like I always kind of felt that
Yeah.
some parts of it would always be accepted, but then, for me, like, I think some of the kind of emotionality and sentimentality of the characters and their journeys, I wasn't sure whether that would land, and that seems to be the thing that's kind of connecting with people
Yeah.
more than anything. So, like, I think the reviews from the UK have been really cool, like they're really tapping into that. We did have a screening at Lucca Film Festival in Italy, and I was always
Oh,
worried that it might not translate, and it seems that the Italians really got it as well, which was cool to see. So, I guess if anything, like, you're just sort of stressing out that you're worried that it might not land, or the tone's off, or that people might not get what you're going for. But I think that we're sort of pushing the limits and trying to achieve something like kind of unique, and it's sort of been received in that way. So it's been really cool to see.
well, if there's any country you want to hear "Bravo, Sam," it's Italy.
Yeah,
Bravo,
exactly.
bravo. 1995. I know it jumps around to different years and time zones and what have you, but why 1995?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're kind of like pushing forward as we sort of progress forward in time. Like, you know, when I was younger, time travel movies would always go back to the 70s or the 80s, you know, and
Yeah.
like because of where we are now, it's sort of like they need to go back to 95. I think that yeah, look, it wasn't anything specific to that era. It just felt like like in terms of the characters, the sort of right age for Denise, and given the
Mm.
rules of the time travel in the world, quite early on, I sort of decided that the rules would be deterministic, so you're kind of like stuck in this loop. So if you unpack it too much, you're probably gonna like um like have some issues with the paradoxes of how that works. But it's like, like Johnny often gives himself the ideas, Denise often saves Denise or
Yeah.
screws with her. And so it just felt necessary to the story. But it also felt like when we kind of got into that, the Tracy character, Elise Jansen, the actress, she asked me, is there anything that you think I should watch? And I was like, yeah, I think you should watch Chopper, because she hadn't seen it. And I was like, Chopper's such a cool, like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably my favorite Australian film. And I was like, this is the world that Tracy's been living in.
Yeah.
So, there was a few acknowledgements towards that, like sort of discussing Goey and the gangs and stuff like that of the time. Yeah, so once we sort of settled on that year, it was more just sort of looking at what we could use and how we could make it fit the story and speak to what we were trying to achieve.
Chopper was big around the world, in particular the UK. So
Yeah.
you're on good ground there.
Yeah.
Time slips or temporal narcotic is how it's explained in the movie. A drug, a time travel drug, basically. Now, I saw a movie recently that the time travel machine was a photo booth. And of course, there's the DeLorean and there's been different things, but why the drug? Is it just so that was easier
Yeah, look, no, I
to
really
live
like the
life?
idea. Most of the time, you're right. Most of the time, it's something external, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I really like this idea that it's something like internal, and it's something that's kind of like like dealing with cellular breakdown. And obviously, the more the characters do the drug, the more fucked up they get, and the more they're struggling with it. So I was like, look, it's sort of then brings into this question of like, well, how much can they do? Like, it kind of sets a time limit and like raises the stakes in terms of like their goals that they're trying to achieve. So
fair enough.
even though I think that a lot of that stuff might not be conscious, I feel like people pick up on it, like, and obviously towards the end of the film, like, there is hopefully a little bit of that anxiety and tension sitting in the back of people's minds
Yeah.
as they watch it.
The abandoned house was quite detailed.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm assuming you're going to get this all the time as a question, but was it a set or a location? Because
No, so it was a location, and it was like a nightmare to find. Like, it was so hard to find. We were trying to track down a knockdown. So that house got knocked down straight after we filmed. So we weren't going back for any pickups. It was actually, when we got in there, every wall had been painted purely white. So our art department really had to do a job from from the top, from the bottom, from
look
bottom to
good.
the top. Yeah, and obviously, like they're more than happy to remind me that they basically sort of had to renovate a whole house 4 times in a month. So we'd kind of get in there, shoot an area, go away and do the exteriors, and then come back and shoot another area. So often they only had sort of a day or two to flip the space.
Did you shoot it during COVID restrictions or was it before
Yeah, so it was
COVID?
literally just after, like, so it was, yeah, pretty scary. Like, leading into that, we had one of our actors go down with COVID the day before we started shooting, which meant we needed to rejig the whole schedule. We had other crew members go down with COVID, and I think it's a little bit of a miracle that more people didn't go down, and we were able to stick the schedule, because I think that even though the house was perfect and we loved having it,
Amazing detail.
yeah, and I mean, just having the space was awesome, but there was always that threat of the demolition date looming, and if we had too many shutdowns, we might not have got it finished. So it was pretty scary, sort of jumping into that.
The sound design and the music in particular. Now, I watched it with headphones on, and it was really detailed. The
Yep.
music reminded me a little bit of Blade Runner, Vangelis
Yep.
at times. And then you got the inkling in the background and the little wishing noises and things. Really good sound design, editing, and music score.
Yeah, so James Orr, the composer, like, yeah, I think I mean, he absolutely killed this. Like, you know,
Great job.
we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time together, just sort of talking through things. It took a long time to land on the instrumentation that was going to work for us.
Yeah.
We both had said early on we really loved like Clint Mansell and Cliff Martinez, and so when we sort of started to unpack that, I was like, look, let's just lean into it. And then I think it all sort of clicked into place with one word that I'd said to him, which was I think it was melancholy. Like, and I was like, you know, this shouldn't feel like, you know, obviously the film's crazy and like, you know, we've got like some hectic stuff going on and it's quite
Yeah.
anxiety inducing. But I think the soundtrack should be like a little bit sad as well. And I think that note and then combining that with that synth kind of sound really just ramped up that kind of part of the film that we were like trying to emphasize.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me at the time, but Cliff Martin is right. Yeah, there was combinations of him too. So yeah, it was very effective. Good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Stood out.
oh, great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the sound design guys, yeah, they just totally killed this as well. I think, you know, the opening with you know, all the clocks ticking and the Geiger
Yeah.
counting and stuff like that. Like, I think when we got into the mixer was like, I can't even do anything. Like, he's worked on this so much, it's perfect. You know, so yeah.
There's like a daughter, mother, father cross-pollination story here, but none of them I don't like. I think the only person I really liked was Denise. I had no sympathy for anyone.
Oh,
I hate
really?
to say
Okay.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
very
Oh,
little
look,
sympathy for anyone.
yeah, it's interesting you say that because I have a lot of people say they have a lot of, you know, they sort of love and have a lot of sympathy for Johnny straight away, and they don't have much for Denise. Look, like I think it's like I'm never too concerned about whether I like a character or not if I'm watching
Sure.
something, you know, like you know, one of my favorite shows is Veep, and I was just like, I find it hilarious that
It's hilarious. It's hysterical.
yeah, and the fact that they're all just such monsters, and you know, like I find it, I never find it too much. Like, I'm always happy for them to like keep pushing and exhibiting bad behavior. Um, yeah, look, yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad that Denise connected for you because you know, like that's often one we hear back where like I really like Johnny and connected with him, but I
Oh,
feel that way with Denise.
I'll get to Freya briefly in a second, but Charles Grounds as Johnny. I mean, he was irritating and he was despicable, and I didn't like him from the start.
Okay.
Obviously, I went for the ride
Yep.
and with him, but I don't know. I did not connect with him at all. But that's a testament to Charles's acting,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Charles is, yeah, he's amazing. Like, he's so funny, but yet so sort of sensitive and like picked up on these little things, and you know, like just tried to round Johnny out to make
Yeah,
him kind of like his own beast.
yeah. I hated the guy. I kind of come around a little bit, but I got to be honest. A Perth girl, Freya. She was great for me. The highlight when it came to acting. I don't know why. I just really connected with her. She was like this everyday person that was suffering as well on multiple levels. She was just suffering. She's a Perth girl and a solid actor. I hope she goes a long way. Did you cast her from the beginning? Did you know her?
No, yeah, we didn't know her. This was probably the scariest part of the of going into the shoot was the casting. Like
Yeah,
we sort of, you know, we spent a long time trying to find Johnny because we knew that we kind of had to get that right. And you know, it was like, you know, it took a long time to find Charles, and so we didn't leave us a lot of time to find Denise.
yeah.
And yeah, Freya had just moved back from LA. She'd been living in LA for 10 years. So I think she moved over there right after high school. And, you know, she'd done a lot of stuff over there
Yeah.
and just moved back to Australia. She hadn't even really settled here yet. I think she'd only been back 1 week. And
Wow.
we did a audition over Zoom with her. And yeah, just straight away, I just felt like she got it, you know, like I didn't want a Denise that kind of like bought into all Johnny's bullshit. Like, I wanted her to always be able to push back and be her own person. And obviously it's her story at the end of the day. It's her journey. You know, I kind of look at her as the protagonist. And
Yeah.
so yeah, having someone that was like, you know, could hang with Johnny, but was like sympathetic and could really do the emotional stuff. Like, I felt like, yeah, she just really shone through that last sort of act of the film where she really had to kind of tap into like the more emotional stuff. Like
Yeah.
She was great, and yeah, I'd love to work with her again.
She had a little safety pin under one of her ears. Was that real, or was that for the character?
That's for the character, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen her in a movie called Year of the Detectives. It was
Yep.
probably one of the only things I've seen her in, and she was great in that too. And I don't remember the tattoo.
Yeah, I think Freya had sort of asked for a tattoo to help her sort of feel like it was. She was like, Denise would have one, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe the safety pin's cool because she's struggling to keep it together, you know.
Yeah. Now I'm aware of time. Joshua, I'll just mention, and Elise, as you already have talked to me about, they're both good casting. So all round, you hit the nail on the head there.
Oh, great, thanks.
Even though Johnny was just implorable. The resolution was very sort of hard to work out. Now, are you worried that people are going to get through the entire movie and then how it ends might question mark up?
I guess the feedback we've had so far, and we actually did some focus group screening while we were early in the edit, and we found that the ending was landing the most for everyone. I kind of look at the story as being, this kind of like it builds towards being this knot. So in the middle of the film, it's just this knot. Yeah. And we sort of start to smooth that out or untangle it towards the end, where I hope that for the second half of the film, people are just buying into the relationships between the characters and the emotionality rather than trying to figure out everything. It's cool if they do go back and watch it a second time, like and jump into all the little clues and Easter eggs. But for me, it was always sort of about do we believe that that kind of connection between Denise and Johnny? And so far the feedback has been yes, people do believe it, and people are connecting with that, which I think is probably the part of the film that like I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because even though it was a little difficult for me, when I rewatched it, you're right. There's those little things that you do notice, and I like movies that are going to create discussion anyway, and I think it does.
Yeah, great, cool.
Two more quick ones. There's a grandfather clock in that final scene behind Johnny when he's writing and narrating from his head. Was that a real grandfather clock? I mean, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, yeah, again, just such a testament to the set dressers, and
congratulations.
There was never anything that I was like, oh, I want this, and they couldn't make it work and make it work beyond my expectations as well. Yeah. So, and it was just kind of really nice. I kind of had that idea pretty early on that Johnny's voice would be, everything else would be falling out of the sound design, and it would just be this clock ticking, and then that would
yeah. Do you own a director's chair with your name on it?
No, I'm standing the whole time.
And last but not least, I really enjoy asking directors and filmmakers this final question: why should people watch your movie? Like, there's so much to choose from. If they don't see it at the cinema, should they choose it on digital platforms?
Yeah, look, I think as I said before, like, we were just setting out to make something really unique. Like, obviously there is a lot of choice out there these days, and I find that there's just so much good quality stuff, but so much stuff that I watch and I'm like, well, I've kind of seen that before, I've seen a version of that before, and I hope that people can watch our film and think, I've never seen anything like that before.
Well, I think some junkies might have got a hold of another bag somewhere, so you might have another sequel in you, or a prequel even.
Yeah,
someone had to make it.
That would be a lot to bite off and chew. I kind of had just literally had a conversation with one of my producers today, saying I'll probably never do time travel again. So,
look, if it's a one-off, so be it. Thank you very much. It's lovely talking to you, mate, and all the best with the film. I hope we cross paths sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Cheers.